What's on, ladies and gentlemen? My name's Ross, I like games, and today we're going to be looking at Arcee. Now, Arcee was the very first card from the Transformers trading card game that I ever profiled. But we need to have a look at it again now, because Arcee's not seeing like any play. There was a really interesting article put up on the Transformers TCG official Facebook this week. They were having a look at packs. Now, packs are super important because it is the only tournaments we've had. Well, the ones at packs. That was it. That's all we've really had. So the metagame, as much as it is, and usual reminder, it's super early and we know nothing, was shaped at packs. And what they did was they gave us a few characters that they expected to be better that really haven't seen any play. Because, of course, the designers of the card game have placed their bets on what they think is going to be good. Arcee was one of those they thought was going to be good and wasn't. And if we have a look at the basics, it seems so good. 5 cost is, I mean, look, except for the Metroplex characters, the cheapest in the entire game. That's nice. Health of 9, defense of 1 is low, but it's crazy cheap, so you can forgive it. Attack of 1 and 2 is also low, but again, it's crazy cheap, you can forgive it. When you flip it into alt mode, you repair 1 damage from each of your characters. That's quite nice repairing, healing if you will. But what really stands out about Arcee is in bot mode, you've got Pierce equal to your attack. Now what that means is that if you've got an attack of 4, you do a minimum of 4 damage. Well, you do exactly 4 because that's your attack. All the damage Arcee does is guaranteed. There's really very little you can do about it, with the exceptions of Scrapnel and Force Field. Scrapnel and Force Field do stop Pierce. That has been confirmed on the FAQ. But aside from Insecticon, Scrapnel, and Force Field, all of the damage you do will go through. So if you can get Arcee's attack up to 5, you guarantee that you do 5 damage. All of those blue pips your opponent's playing do nothing. It doesn't matter what their defense is. The only thing that matters is your attack. You get an attack of 5, you do 5 damage. So why has Arcee not seen very much play? And I believe I know the answer to this. Although, as always, get your ideas down in the comment section. I would love to know. And my theory is we are super early in the metagame. So what we see at the moment is defined teams. The first lot of tournaments see very defined teams. So we've profiled a couple of decks that did well at packs on this channel. One of the ones we did just a couple days ago was Insecticons. And the thing is, you kind of have to play 4 wide with Insecticons, because you've got Swarm, which lets you flip 1 card for each Insecticon with which you started the game. And then essentially for each orange you hit, you do a damage to one of your opponent's characters. That's pretty good. Not to mention that we've also got Kickback. When it's attacking, you flip 2 more battle cards for each other Insecticon you began the game with. So they naturally lend themselves to playing lots and lots of Insecticons. And if you play Arcee instead of something like Kickback, well, you lose a lot there. You lose an attacker who's flipping over 8 cards. You lose a card flipped over for Swarm, etc. You just end up losing a lot of this synergy. Similarly, we saw Double Prime seeing a lot of play. Now, Double Primes doesn't necessarily have synergy in the same way that Insecticons do. But you know what? It's a big bad 13 cost that smashes. And to be fair, Optimus Prime Battlefield Legend is pretty much confirmed as the best character now. Come at me in the comment section if you disagree. And then you got Nemesis Prime, who's a 12 cost and also just smashes and has nut stats. Okay, sounds like fun. And look, I mean, they're both trucks. There's a little bit of synergy in there. So you got something like Team Up Tactics, which just gives you a blue icon while repairing, as opposed to something like Medic, which does heal the 2 damage, but doesn't have an icon. And it doesn't fit into them. But if we look at the other decks that people were hyping in and around packs, we see a very similar thing. So we saw that Dinobot decks were generally playing Grimlock, and they kind of have to play Grimlock, right? Because it's a nuts good attacker, and it can basically KO 2 characters in 1 turn, because in bot mode any damage gets redirected. But then if you flip to alt mode, you give one of your characters bold free, as long as they're a Dinobot. So you kind of have to go Dinobots there. And then, of course, you play Dinobot Sludge because it's really nice for moving damage counters onto it and healing your others. And then, of course, you really want to play Dino Chomp to give you bold 5. But then when you play Dino Chomp, you really do want to then have a little bit of a go with Dinobot Snarl, which draws if you've got 0 cards in hand. And there's nothing to stop you playing action cards that draw cards. We got plenty of action cards that draw cards. Backup plan. There we go. Scrap your hand, draw 3 cards, white icon, all is good. But then you got to have that in hand for the turn after you play Dino Jump, and it just gets kind of annoying. So once again, we find ourselves wanting to play Dinobots. And we also see people playing Hot Wheels or cars. Now this does seem to have a little bit more variety in terms of the ones that are played, but we still see a lot of the same things. So maybe your car's deck plays Cliff Jumper. Well, that has +1 attack for each car in your KO area. Although, to be fair, that does actually come around as a convention exclusive card, which is a little bit of a problem because it's extremely expensive. I did a video about that the other day. Pop a link to that one in the description. Or maybe one of my favourites, Prowl Military Strategist. When one of your cars is KO'd, you repair 3 damage from one of your other characters. When you flip to this mode, each of your cars gets bold too. So again, you're helping out cars. And this, I think, is a main reason for Arcee. I mean, look, we could have done the same thing with planes. Personally, when I'm playing planes, I'm a huge fan of Starscream Air Commander, because you get to do cheeky damage. And I'm a huge fan of Thundercracker, because you get to do cheeky damage, at which point I'm at 19 and I end up playing Skywarp because it's a 6-cost plane. And I know other people have different plane decks and that's fine, but again, you want planes, because something like Starscream do damage to an enemy equals the number of other planes you have. So if you've got 2 other planes, you do 2 damage, 1 other planes, you do 1. Arcee is a really good character, but she doesn't fit into a planes deck very well, or a Cars deck, or a Dinobots deck, or an Insecticons deck, or a Double Primes deck. The other deck, which saw quite a bit of play at PAX and a little bit of success, was Metroplex. But Metroplex is a 25-cost character. There's no if, buts, or maybes when you're talking Metroplex. Either you play Metroplex, or you don't play Metroplex. There is no middle ground. And then we get back to Arcee and we go, well, Arcee's a great character. It's a very cheap card. It's got really good skills. Oh, hang on a second. It doesn't fit into any of those decks. And there is no motorcycle deck. Motorcycle, at the moment, we got Chromia Special Ops and we got Arcee Skilled Warrior. They are the only 2 motorcycles we have. And just like we see with spaceships, I'm looking at you, Autobot Cosmos, and I'm also looking at you, Decepticon Shockwave. There's no support. We do not have support for motorcycles. We do not have support for spaceships. I should also mention Flame War is a motorcycle. Forgot that one. Sorry. But I think I corrected myself pretty gosh darn quickly. So there is no motorcycle deck at the moment. You can play 3 motorcycles. They add up to 18. You've got space for a 4th character. But you don't get much for them. You don't get the same synergy as you do with something like Insecticons, with something like Planes, etc. And that's the big issue with Arcee. Arcee is a great character that doesn't fit into any of the established archetypes. But here's the thing, and I think this is extremely important. We are super early on in the metagame. One of the things I say most often on this channel, especially when talking about the metagame, it's early, we know nothing. Because you see, at the moment, we've just had the first couple tournaments. So Double Primes is about as spicy as we get. We turn up with Double Primes, but really it's just 2 big bad smashers, so it makes perfect sense. And then we've got a Cars deck, a Planes deck, an Insecticons deck, Metroplex. But we're not really mixing it up very much. What happens is that as time goes by, the metagame gets a bit more defined, and everybody knows that Double Primes is a really good deck. So we start finding something that counters it. And this is where there is hope for Arcee. Because the Double Primes deck I looked at the other day, and again, there is a link in the description, do please check that video out. It is a very blue-heavy deck. And we saw this even changing as we were just talking about the game before we even started having tournaments. Everybody's going super aggro orange decks, Dinobots was a favourite, so some people start playing blue decks to counter it. And the thing with blue decks is you build up your defense using blue decks to try and stop stuff like Optimus Prime and Nemesis Prime doing big damage and smashing. So you play blue so your opponent does a bit less damage. The thing is, if you've got a character with Pierce, Pierce goes through your opponent's defense. It doesn't really matter what their defense is because you're guaranteeing damage with Pierce. And oh look, Arcee is a 5-cost character with Pierce equal to attack. So if you're playing a deck that uses a bunch of cards that grant bold, something like Supercharge springs to mind, gives you bold free, then you're all golden and sorted, but then maybe you come across a double prize playing lots of blue, and they can survive for an extra turn or two because they're blocking enough damage, and then they overwhelm you. And then in comes Arcee with Pierce. Just because Arcee saw essentially no success at PAX doesn't mean that Arcee's a bad character. It means the metagame isn't ready. It means we ain't playing something for Arcee right now. But it was the first couple of tournaments, and everybody was playing with their established archetypes, with the ones with obvious synergy, and nobody was really countering the meta because there was no real meta of which to speak. Well, now we do. And blue's looking pretty good. And Pierce is pretty good against blue. I expect Arcee to see more play in the future. Can't guarantee, ladies and gentlemen, but I feel pretty good about this. But maybe you think I'm wrong, in which case, great news. There's a comment section. Go nuts, ladies and gentlemen, but please do remember the rule. Be nice, would ya? And then make sure you like this video, subscribe to this channel, and follow me on Twitter at the Wossy for some more rambling. But by far the most important thing, as always, is to look after yourselves until next time. Thank you very much for watching. My name's Ross, and you've been watching Wossy Plays.